Let's talk about Metro Boomin. Millions of people listen to the track he produced, but why is it happening? Every day I try to find videos where I wanted to find the answer to who the Metro Boomin is and what his sound consists of. But so many videos didn't give me the answer. So after a few years I decided to do by myself. Well, here's how it really works. Originally in musical history there were rhythms, different kinds of claps, drums that made you feel the rhythm. And here, as you may have noticed, Metro Boomin uses pulsation not only in the drums but in the melody itself. But that's not the only reason why Metro Boomin has become the most influential producer in music, because the breakdown to rest of the chips we have to look a little bit deeper. Let's go to an example. We have four main sections. They are melodies, instruments, drums and mixing. And let's start with instrument selection. What would you choose? Analog log or contact? Okay, those two instruments are great for writing melody like his. But as Metro Boomin mentioned, he prefers contact because you can find a lot of analog instruments there, as well as live acoustic ones. In the past, Metro Boomin really liked to use the Nexus 3, but now that sound is outdated. And a great alternative is the Omnisphere, the second instrument that Metro Boomin likes to use. The most popular progression can be heard in his track, it's 1/4 or 1/5. And use semitones is also a popular trick in his tracks. It adds a dark mystery sound. Well, practically every song by Metro Boomin has a piano in it. No matter if it sounds muggier or harder, it's still here. So I add no piano, a build melody like this. Yeah, it's pretty simple, but it's enough. So what we do have here, we just position our root notes here, for example, and then copy it and octave down. So the next one, what we're gonna do, it makes chord. We put note here and here, and then we bring it up on octave. I guess on 2 octave. And then we just move chords like this, maybe chop it a little bit. And don't forget to add a little bit half steps here, because it's very important to have a darky mood. And then copy it over and over. Of course, and our bass notes. And then we can go down on 5 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next tool we're gonna need is some kind of pad to fill the background. And here we can just make a chord like in our piano, because it will be like layers. It's nothing extraordinary, because we have just set the same chords here and we need to move it up on octave. Another instrument the Metro Boomin can do without the strings or violin and the same stuff. And here we have just 2 notes because of course it's enough and it sounds sick, but it's like a simple. Alright, the next one what we have, it's choir. So Metro Boomin like vocals, choir, especially in the intro, in the chorus as well. And here we have the same progression, it's nothing ordinary. Also for melodies, it will not be enough to use static chords. As I mentioned earlier, we will need to use arpeggios. Simply put the overlapping of the notes in our chord as ascending or descending, or we can slice our chord to add a ripple to them. This way we will create movement and it'll go great with our drums. And while we are on the subject of drums, let's take a look at what's so special about them. The drum and bass section itself can be divided into 2 parts. In the first variant we can hear a typical snare pattern, a hi-hat on every second step and a bass that plays under every kick. The second version of the drums is beat a little differently. We add for our typical snare pattern some more extra beats, and it's not uncommon for us to use the chops that come in before the drop or serve as a transition to another part. For the hi-hats we use live sounds emulation, so that in addition to the sound itself there is also a very slight shift in the rhythm, and a bass pattern where we shorten the duration of the bass a little bit before the next beat to create a little pause. And because the drums are very similar to Memphis in the mood, we also add a triangle which you can hear in those styles. So here we have just ordinary snare pattern. Then I added just ordinary 2 steps hi-hat pattern. Yeah. And one of the important things here is add a little bit groove with this shift. So then I added a kick pattern, and it's like a pretty simple pattern. Then I added a similar elevate pattern to the kick. So they were our basic instruments, and there, to diversify the chorus and verse, I added live cymbals, triangles and open heads to make sounds interesting. And snare roll before our chorus. So by combining the pulsation in the melody and the drums, we can create a crazy mood. Also, additional sounds that will add to the atmosphere will be suitable for such melodies. For example, the sound of sirens and vinyl noises for background. You can also use additional technique to create a dark atmosphere. The first moment we can reverse our melody or play with the pitch, for example, and lower it down an octave. Now let's move on to talk the mixing itself and talk about what really suits us to create a dark atmosphere. For sample processing, we may need the halftime or RC20. Two of these plugins can already make the sound sample, but don't forget that we are trying to achieve an analog sound. So if we need a compression, saturation, we can use plugins from Arturia, and such beats are not without extra space. Here we can also use analog reverbs, for example reverb intensity, reverb plate, or with a simpler plugin but which works very well. This is Valhalla. So, and all together. So, but the most main thing why he is one of the most recognized producer in his personality, because it was him who brought to the masses this sound, which eventually started to become something commonplace, but at the same time continued to delight many listeners around the world. True, that's a small part of the tricks in the producing. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to know more, click on this video. Peace.